Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group Loan. Our group consists of 5 members, which is Alia, Adriana, Dhasyiqa, Izatie, Najiha, Nurnadhirah, and Huda, Najihah. Our presentation will be cover the definitions, the constituent element, the characteristic, the condition, the Islamic versus conventional loans, the Islamic perspective, and scholars' opinion, and lastly, conclusions. Loan. What exactly is a loan? Is it good or bad to take out a loan? So, a loan is basically a sum of money borrowed from a bank or other financial institution by one or more individuals or businesses to fund planned or unplanned event. The loan terms is typically an intermediate credit product that is usually accompanied by a formal loan contract between the lender and the borrower. In many cases, the lender will additionally add interest or interest fee to the principal value, which the borrower must return it additionally to the main sum. For some people, loans are a good alternative, but they are not best solution in every scenario. However, just because they are convenient doesn't imply you should utilize them every time you require additional funds. Fiqh is classified into 4 categories in Islam, which is the Fiqh al-Ibadat, which deal with all type of worship. Second, Fiqh al-Munakahat is a branch of the Islamic law that deals with the family issues. The third one is Fiqh al-Jinayat, addresses a criminal offences. And finally, commercial transaction and property are covered by Fiqh al-Muamalat, which included contract, company, organizations, debt, security, and also cover the Qardh al-Hasan. In Arabic, Al-Qardh or Al-Qardh will be defined as subtraction. It is known as Al-Qardh because it cuts a piece of property lender. Hasan is also an Arabic term that means grace. Ihsan is a word that signifies to love others. Qardh al-Hasan is financing that is repaid without interest or a share of profit and losses at the end of the specific period. Because of the non-profit material returns, Qardh al-Hasan is a good act. It is supposedly strong in Islam since it can protect individuals in need from the borrower oppressions. In Malaysia, just a small percentage of people use Qardh al-Hasan. Needy people particularly will be beneficial in this type of loan, that microfinance institutions are able to provide loan to them. Qardh al-Hasan is used in a business activity and has established a business model as evidenced by pawnbroking under Ar-Rahnu schemes, Amanah Itiar Malaysia, the Islamic microfinance institutions, and the microcredit scheme Selangor, also known as Scheme Cell.
Moving into constituent elements of Qardh. Qardh, or known as a loan contract, consists of 3 main components, which are contracting parties, offer and acceptance, and money. For contracting parties, it consists of a lender and a borrower. The lender must be the owner of the money lent. Both of the lender and the borrower must be natural persons or a legal entity that have the legal capacity to enter the contract. This means they must have the ability to assume rights and responsibilities and also know the legal effects of one's action. Therefore, they must possess a sound mind and mumayyiz. Plus, the Qardh contract must be entered by both parties through offer and acceptance. It can be expressed in oral, in writing, or by any means recognized by Sharia. However, the best agreement is in the black and white to avoid future disputes. The term and condition of the contract must be mutually agreed upon both parties and follow the Sharia. The last element is the subject matter. It shall be fungible, deliverable, and recognized by Sharia. Most of the time, money is the subject matter in the Qardh contract. The borrower will hold the obligation to repay the subject matter to the lender according to their agreement in the term of time and method of payments. It can be made through an arrangement of a third-party guarantee, kafalah, pledge or charge, run, and takaful. Next is key characteristic. Qardh al-Hasan is a non-rewarding loan. The lender has no expectation of the money to be returned. However, the borrower is morally obliged to repay the principal in a timeless manner depending on his financial capacity. Nonetheless, the lender will forego the principal payment if the borrower faces economic hardships to repay it. Next, the loan can play a role as a financial enhancement tool to embrace financial and social inclusion in the society. It helps the poor to be a part of economic activities and improve their social wealth. Since they do not have any collateral wealth, offering their skills can be collateral to extend such credit. Furthermore, they can upgrade their skills in this way. Plus, it helps in harmonizing the community among the rich and the poor, which will lead to a more cooperative, collaborative, and caring society. Next, I will give the floor to Sister Alia.
In establishing a successful contract with the lender and borrower, there are few conditions that need to be focused on. Firstly is property. For lender, the property needs to be fully owned before the card contract has been agreed. For borrower, the actual possessions of the property will be enjoyed after the card contract has been agreed by both parties. The borrower of the property receives absolute and unconditional right over the borrowed property after the card contract has been established. The property also should be agreed upon its actual size, quantity, and quality. These have shown that card contract has truly established the legal capacity of both parties, with the lender and borrower. Secondly is repayment of property. Settlement of the repayment should be based upon the request of the borrower. Borrower should repay or return the agreed property with the same type, quantity, and quality upon the card contract. Next, any condition that requires the increase of repayment due to delay is prohibited in the card contract. However, lenders are allowed and encouraged to accept his or her property back, even though it is in lower quality or quantity as an act of sadaqah. Hence, the borrower is also allowed to repay the lender an additional sum as a gesture of goodwill, without any promise or commitment between the parties. Furthermore, lenders are also really encouraged to wait or give some time to the borrower for repayment. If the borrower is suffering from any financial difficulties, the lender should let the borrower extend the repayment period until he or she is in a position to pay. Thus, act of forgiving is really encouraged by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, as mentioned in Surah At-Takabun, verse 17. Moreover, any extra changes are not allowed in card contract, even though the borrower has no strong excuse in delaying repayment. However, if a rich borrower intentionally delayed the repayment of property, it is viewed as injustice toward the lender. Therefore, the repayment of property will be transferred as a current loan upon the death of rich borrower to be able to give justice towards the lender. In a card contract, it is not permissible to impose any preconditions upon the lender and borrower. In addition, the contracting parties are allowed to revoke the contract at any time of the card contract. Upon the death of the borrower, the heirs of the borrower need to take the responsibility to pay for the borrowed property. Moreover, the repayment should first take place and paid before any wealth or estate distributions take place in the borrower families.
From an Islamic standpoint, the Qard al-Hasan encouraged its adherents to be decent citizens. The borrower will basically pay more as a symbol of renewed self-esteem. The obligation to pay the loan and believer will pay off the debt. Spiritually, the lender will only lend to those who follow Allah's path. People who cannot afford are provided Qard al-Hasan, and it is even better if the borrower is unable to pay the loan and the lender postpone and justify the loan. The conventional perspective of lending is focused on monetary gain. The Qard al-Hasan, on the other hand, is a lending instrument. Because the deed is done for the sake of God, the owner will be rewarded as well as Allah's affection. The activity, however, will take place only if the owner understands both the reward and the fisabilillah ideology. The grasp of ethical and metaphysical ideas is required to explain the theory loan from an Islamic perspective. Knowing this attitude will influence both the intention to give a loan and the behavior of loan repayment. As a result, we will talk about Qard ethical philosophy. There are two types of philosophical underpinnings, which is practical and theoretical. On the other hand, Qard is a verb that means to act. The lender has two options when it comes to granting Qard, either a benevolent loan or monetary reward. In the usual view, the conclusion is either a recompense from Allah or a monetary reward, such as interest. However, he will make decisions based on the level of enjoyment he will receive.
Next, I will continue with the Islamic perspective of Qard al-Hasan. Though Qard al-Hasan is a type of loan that follows the ruling of Islam, the definition of Qard differs between each school of thought. According to Mazhab Shafi'i, Qard means transferring ownership to another party with the condition that the property is repaid back to the owner. According to Mazhab Hanbali, it means to pay monetary property to the party that will benefit from it and receive an equivalent return. Hanafi, on the other hand, views Qard as the return of equivalent property after lending it to the debtor. In general, Al-Qardh means cutting off because the lender cuts off his ownership of property when it is given to the borrower. Even though the definition varies in the school of thoughts, all scholars permit Qard al-Hasan as it does not bring any usury and raise any interest in the repayment of loan. Next is the implementation of Qard al-Hasan in business transactions. In Malaysia, efforts are seen to help small and medium enterprises or SMEs to build their startup businesses. Adriana in 2020 studied the practicality of Qard al-Hasan when obtaining crowdfunding for the SMEs to operate their startup businesses. Crowdfunding for SMEs has been in practice for quite some time. However, it involves additional payment or a form of token for the donor, which is against the teaching of Islam, in which to include an additional amount in the repayment of any form of loan or debt. Qard al-Hasan based crowdfunding requires 4 parties to be present as shown in the slide. The involvement of Sharia advisory is to ensure that the business proposed by the business owner is free from any prohibited elements. All transactions will be made on this platform, which acts as an agent for the business owner in obtaining funds from potential donors. The business owner will then sign a promise contract that the fund will be paid in an agreed period of time on several payments through the platform. Another study by Adnan 2019 has been carried out to better enhance the zakat distribution system in Aceh. In ensuring the sustainability of zakat collection, Baitumai Aceh distributed microcredit capital assistance to eligible SME businesses. Because zakat is collected and provided to all eligible members of the society who falls under the Asnaf Act categories, receivers of microcredit aid must adhere to a rigid and precise criterion as listed in the slide. The assistance is given in 2 forms, in the form of cash capital and in the purchase of specialized equipment. The repayment, however, is divided according to the business sector. Trade and service sectors will need to repay their assistance received by installment until the full amount is fully paid. The agricultural sector, on the other hand, is allowed to pay the amount once they receive the revenue. This method of zakat distribution not only opens an opportunity to people who intend to start a business, but also ensure there is a consistent inflow of zakat to be distributed to other asnaf. In conclusion, Qard al-Hasan is permissible according to the Islamic teaching and is relevant to implement it in today's business transaction.
From the foregoing discussion, the following can be summed up. In Islam, a monetary loan can be used as a kind of social service by the wealthier to aid the needy and those in need of financial support. Qard al-Hasan can be compared as a cross between generosity and lending. Businesses and consumers can borrow money on a goodwill basis with Qard al-Hasan. Because the main reason of this type of loan is they do not charge any interest rate components. Generally speaking, Qard al-Hasan loans are used to help people in need.